Hello everyone. So today's materials you will need is a pencil, a ruler, or anything that you have with a straight edge, and a piece of paper. If you don't have a ruler, I would suggest using the back of a book, or you can even use a piece of paper, maybe fold it, that way you have a little bit more of an edge. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start by taking our ruler and we're going to draw an X and a plus sign across our paper. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this, so don't start it just yet. So I'm using my pencil, I'm going across, making my X. As you can see, it didn't quite reach the end of the paper. My ruler is a little bit short, but that's no big deal. Just drag it down and finish out your line. And now I'm working on the plus. So an X and a plus. Now, as you can see, all of these points meet in the very center of my paper. You don't need to do it that way. If you want your intersection point a little bit higher, just start off with your horizontal or vertical line and do the plus before you do the X. So here I did the X first and then the plus, that way it would be in the center. But this time I did the plus first, and now I'm doing my X. As you can see, the X isn't lined up with the corners. I'm just winging it, okay? So this is what it might look like if your intersection point is a little bit off to the side. So I'm going to flip my page back over after I show you this next step because I like my other version a little bit better than it all being in the center. But you get to choose whichever you would like. So in addition to the X and the plus, you're going to want to draw two more long lines going through your intersection point. So here I have my X and my plus. Now I need to add two more. I thought this area would be a good spot to add another line. And I flipped my ruler the other way and added one in this area. So altogether we should have our X, our plus, and then another X. I like thinking of letters, that way I remember all the lines I did and I know I have the right amount. So once again, I'm choosing this side because I kind of like having my intersection point over to the side, not directly in the center, but like I said, it's totally up to you. Directly in the center looks awesome as well. So now we're going to start by drawing a U shape. And I chose to draw about 4 of them. Now we're going to skip our section and then continue on with our U shape. And once again, I'm doing about the same amount. Since my intersection point is off to the side, in some sections I might be able to fit a 5th U, but you'll kind of see what works for you as you go along. So here I'm just creating a pattern. I'm doing my U's in one section and then I'm skipping a section. Doing my U's in another section and then skipping a section. So we are just going to continue on with this pattern throughout the rest of our design, and then I'll show you what we need to do after. All right, so now the next part is actually pretty simple. We are just connecting our U's with a rainbow shape or an upside down U. So we're just really making sure we're curving our line up, 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 and connecting them. That line I thought got a little bit flat, so I just went back in and made it a little bit more curved. So we're just going to continue on with this pattern throughout all of our empty sections. So like I said, we're doing an upside down U this time. So I'm just going to work my way around this image, connecting my points. And just make sure you're taking your time going blank section to blank section to do those upside down U shapes. So now the next step is to lock in all of these perfect lines that we just created with our Sharpie. So if you don't have a Sharpie, you can use a Crayola marker. I suggest using black, but it is up to you. And we're just going to carefully go over each of those lines and each of those curved lines. So take your time with this part. We just spent a nice amount of time making sure our lines were perfect with our pencil. So we're just going to go over them very carefully in our Sharpie. Now that we have our lines all finalized with our Sharpie, I went back in and erased any pencil that may have been peeking from behind my Sharpie, and now it's time to use our knowledge of complementary colors to choose our color scheme for this optical illusion. So here we have red and green, which is one pair of complementary colors, yellow and purple, and then blue and orange. We also can use black and white. It is up to you. I'm going to use black and white because I'm excited to see what yours look like with some different colors. You can choose black and white like I did, but I'm gonna give you an extra challenge if you decide to use black and white. So here I am filling in every other section with my black marker. So this project has an underlining theme which seems to be patterns. So I would suggest starting with the center shape and then going outwards, filling in every other section with your marker. So now I jumped to the next section and I did the opposite. Instead of starting off with my marker, I left the innermost section white, and then I started filling in every other section with my marker. If it helps, I would suggest mapping out which sections you're going to color first. So for that, you're going to need your pencil, and you might just want to draw a tiny little mark on the sections that you color in. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. See now this section, I'm going back, starting with my center, and then filling in every other. Okay, so here's the pencil part if we want to plan it out, which I suggest this would be a really great idea. So here, I'm just kind of making an X in the areas where I'm going to need to shade. So see how I started off in the center for that row, and then the row next to it, I'm not starting off with the center. This row, starting with the center, which means my next row, I'm gonna have to start right below the center. Once again, starting in the center, every other, and for this one, not starting in the center. Once again, center for this one. Every other is going to be colored, and this one I'm going to skip the center and then continue on with every other. So I'm going to keep coloring, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when I'm all done filling in this drawing, and then I'm going to show you the challenge I'm going to do if you decide to use black. So if you use black marker, our contrasting color is white, which is just going to be our paper. If you choose two colors like purple and yellow, there's obviously a lot more coloring that goes into that. So for us that choose to do black and white, I'm going to challenge us to add some value to some of our rows. So I'm looking at my column that has my upside down U's, and I'm adding some shading. So once again, I'm going to do this pattern where I'm going to skip the next row, and then I'm going to go back to the row with the upside down U's, and I'm going to shade those as well. So every other section I'm shading. See how I skipped the regular U and I'm jumping right to the upside down U's? I'm going to add shading to this section, and I'm going to continue this pattern throughout my whole drawing since I'm not coloring in my white sections And some of our classmates might need to color in those white sections if they chose purple and yellow or green and red. They would be coloring in all their sections. So we need to challenge ourselves just like they are by coloring in these white spots. All right, everyone, make sure you take your time coloring. We want to make sure we're coloring in our pattern correctly. So if it takes a while to map out or plan which sections you're coloring in, that is perfectly fine. Have fun.